ಹೆಲೋ ವೀಕ್ಷಕರೇ, ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ತೆ. ನಾನು ಪ್ರಿಯಾಂಕಾ. ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಡೆಲ್ಲಿಯಿಂದ MBBS ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್, ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್, ಫಿಸಿಷಿಯನ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಎಸ್ ರಂಜನ್ ಸರ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಕೋರೋಣ. ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ತೆ, ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಟು ಅವರ್ ಸೆಷನ್.
ನಮಸ್ತೆ.
ಎಸ್, ಇವತ್ತು ಈ ಧ್ಯಾನದಿಂದ ಏನು ಉಪಯೋಗ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಹೇಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಯಿಲೆಗಳನ್ನು ವಾಸಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. सर मेडिटेशन करने से हेल्थ बेनिफिट हो सकता है क्या?
बहुत. मेडिटेशन से जो एनर्जी हमारे भीतर आती है उससे माइग्रेन से लेकर कैंसर तक, डायबिटीज, थायराइड, PCOD सभी बीमारियां ठीक होती हैं. इवन व्हेन डॉक्टर हैज रिकमेंडेड सम सर्जरी, 90% सर्जिकल डिजीज कैन बी also be cured by meditation energy working on ಚಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ನಾಡಿಯಾಸ್.
ಸೊ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಮೆಡಿಟೇಷನಿಂದ ಡಯಾಬಿಟಿಸಿಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು ಥೈರಾಯ್ಡ್, ಅದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಸರ್ಜರಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ದು ಕಾಯಿಲೆನೂ ಕೂಡ ಬರೀ ಧ್ಯಾನದ ಮುಖಾಂತರ, ಎನರ್ಜಿ ವರ್ಕಿಂದ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸರ್ ಕೂಡ ಹೀಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. सर क्या ऐसा कोई एग्जाम्पल है या लाइव एक्सपीरियंस है जो सर्जरी के जाने तक आकर मेडिटेशन से उन्होंने रिवर्स किया है?
मेरे पास बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल हैं. One case is from Bangalore only. One senior citizen who had diabetes and some disease called multinodular goiter in the throat.
Okay.
And which ENT surgeon recommended that surgery, you have to undergo surgery. So that lady was meditating little bit and she connected me. She took my consultation. I recommended some energy work, some breath work, and some particular acupressure points which works on particular nadis and chakra healing through flowers. So she kept doing that, and in near about 3 months her condition got reversed. Doctor said that there is no multinodular goiter in your report and surgery is not recommended. This is one case. And one very strong case, one child had heart hole, VSD heart hole, ventricular septal defect, a 6-year-old child. So, and that young child had heart hole since birth. Next day of the birth, pediatrician doctor said that child has heart hole. So heart hole size was of moderate size. So doctor said that sometimes some heart hole can get filled. So wait for 4 years. But if heart hole doesn't get filled by 4 years, then surgery is necessary. So that child suffered many complications due to that heart hole, frequent chest infection and other problems. By the age of 4, heart hole had not been filled.
Okay.
So doctor said that you have to surgery is needed. But heart hole surgery is a costly procedure.
True.
So that is from middle class family. So they had to arrange some good amount of 5 to 6 lakh of money, and as well as because it is not so emergency, so you can wait some time. So they were planning for the surgery, and mother came in my contact and recommended meditation and some acupressure, and parents of that child did religiously the meditation process and an acupressure energy work.
Okay.
Every 6 months they used to visit that cardiologist, that what is the status of the heart and when surgery has to be planned. So in their next visit they found that the size of the heart hole has reduced significantly. It is less than 2 mm. So less than 2 mm size doesn't need surgery. So doctor said that you don't need surgery now. Just critical illnesses, heart like heart hole, and number of disease has been healed by meditation and energy work, chakra work and meridian, working on the meridian in yang symbol. The black and white symbol is there. So we have energy of sun and we have energy of mother earth. So that disturbance between balance of that energy creates the disease. So when we understand through meditation the chakra work and through color therapy and acupressure, that energy work, we can heal more than 90% disease naturally through energy medicine.
ಸೂಪರ್. ಸೊ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಒಬ್ರು ಯಾರೋ ಸೀನಿಯರ್ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಡಯಾಬಿಟಿಸ್ ಇತ್ತಂತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಗಂಟ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಗಡ್ಡೆ ಆಗಿತ್ತಂತೆ. ಇವರು ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನಿಂದ, ಆಕ್ಯುಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸಿಂದ, ಕಲರ್ ಥೆರಪಿ, ಹಾಗೆ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಥೆರಪಿ, ಚಕ್ರಾಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್, ಅಂದರೆ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೇ ಈ ಥರ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ವರ್ಕಿಂದ ಆಪ್ರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ದು ಕೂಡ ವಿತಿನ್ 3 ಮಂತ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ರಿವರ್ಸ್ ಆಯಿತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಲೈವ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. ಒಂದು ಮಗುಗೆ ಹಾರ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಲ್ ಇತ್ತಂತೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ಸರ್ಜರಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಮಗು ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಒಂದು 2 ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ವೆಯ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಂದರೆ ಸರ್ ಅವ್ರ ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಬಂದು ಆ ಮಗು ತನ್ನ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂವನ್ನೇ ಡ್ರಾಸ್ಟಿಕಲಿ ಆ ಹಾರ್ಟಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಹೋಲೇ ಅದನ್ನು ರಿವರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ಗೆ ಆ ಮಗು ಬಂತಂತೆ ಸರ್ ಗೈಡೆನ್ಸಿಂದ. तो सर हम सुनने को पड़ा है कि आप कैंसर भी रिवर्स किया है किसी को, वो कैसा पॉसिबल है सर?
Yes. Many people think that cancer is a big disease. It is not so. In energy medicine, cancer is a simple disease like a thyroid.
Oh.
Yeah. But because there is so much fear in the society, and many times doctors gives the fear.
True.
In medical system, there is so much fear is there. So we should choose our doctor very consciously, because whatever doctor will say, that will be ingrained in your mind.
True.
It will fix in your mind.
True.
So choosing doctor is very much necessary. And if one can work on the fear, if one can work on the 7 chakras, even cancer remission is very much easily possible. I have healed stage 3 colon cancer case in a young girl, 31-year-old girl in Delhi. In 10 months, there was remission, the regression of the tumor size on the report. And like me, in whole world, n number of doctors, thousands of cancer patients have healed their cancer naturally.
Wow.
This is known as radical remission multimodal intervention lifestyle, RRMI lifestyle.
RRMI lifestyle.
Yeah. More than 8,000 cancer cases are reported who have healed their cancer naturally.
Oh.
That this book Radical Remission is available on Amazon.
It's a book.
Yeah. It is a 15-year research of a researcher named Kelly A. Turner.
Okay.
So due to the work of Kelly Turner, I got more convincing that yes, cancer can be reversed.
True.
And I am running course and program for cancer remission.
Okay.
Cancer can be healed easily. The only thing is one should know how to work on the chakras and activation of the stem cells.
Stem cells.
Stem cells are those cells which can give rise to any healthy organ or any healthy cells. Everyone has stem cells. In children, number of stem cells are more. So that's why they get healed easily. If a child suffers a fracture and if an adult person suffers a fracture, the child gets healed
True.
quickly,
Quickly.
relatively.
Oh,
An adult person needs more time.
More time.
One of the reason is number of stem cells are high in children.
Okay.
With the age, when the aging happens, the number of stem cells is decreasing. Through meditation and through particular way of meditation called gamma meditation.
Gamma meditation.
Yeah. Stem cells can be increased. So I teach Anapanasati meditation, which is delta meditation.
Anapanasati meditation is delta meditation.
Yeah.
Gamma meditation.
Gamma meditation is activating the heart chakra by heart coherence practice.
How to do that?
Yeah, that is means after half an hour of meditation, you need to feel the love energy in your life.
Okay.
And you have to radiate love to your children first. If somebody is not parent, then they can radiate love to life partner
Life
or
partner.
parents.
Okay.
After 2 minutes of giving love to the most loved person of their life, which is children usually, then to life partner and then parents, and then increase the boundary gradually to whole family.
Okay.
And then to whole social family, which everyone we meet from morning to evening, including a maid and vegetable seller and even any stranger you coming to meet. So that is the part of your society, social community. So giving peace and love to that everyone around you.
Okay.
And one has to heal the karmic relationship. If someone has some conflicting relationship with anyone, तो वो तो हील करना ही पड़ेगा. If some daughter-in-law has some issue with the mother-in-law, if unless that relationship has been healed in n number of diseases, including cancer and other PCOD, diabetes, thyroid, many times relationship problem is there. That is one indicator that stress is there in your life.
तो रिलेशनशिप हील करना है तो
हार्ट कोहेरेंस प्रैक्टिस करना है.
फॉरगिवनेस प्रैक्टिस करना,
हार्ट कोहेरेंस. हाँ, आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट फॉरगिवनेस. दैट इज डिफरेंट थिंग. Heart coherence has more benefits. So, giving love to your children and life partner and then parents and whatever relationship you need to heal. And if your all relationship has been healed, then giving love to whole humanity.
Wow.
So, when it is done under guided practice, it is more powerful.
Okay.
And to activate stem cells, to practice gamma meditation, and to heal all the traumas of past. There are many energy medicine practice are there, which I recommend, which I make a patient to do. And when a patient practices meditation and all the recommended energy medicine practice, healing is very easy. Cancer is a very simple disease, a minor disease. 90% cancer can be healed without chemotherapy, without surgery.
ಸೊ ನೋಡಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಲೈವ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲನ್ನು. ಒಬ್ರು 31 ವರ್ಷದ ಹುಡುಗ ಕೊಲೋನಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸರ್ 3rd ಸ್ಟೇಜಿಂದ ಬಂದಾಗ ವಿತಿನ್ 10 ಮಂತ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಕೆಮೊಥೆರಪಿ ಯಾವ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಬರೀ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ವರ್ಕಿಂದ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ರಿವರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಯಿತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸರ್ ಕೂಡ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಹೀಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೋದು, ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ರಾಂಗ್ ವೇಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪರ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರನ್ನು ಮೀಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಕೂಡ ತುಂಬ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸರ್, तो बहुत लोग यहाँ ये वीडियो देख रहे हैं, इफ़ दे वांट टू कनेक्ट विथ यू, हाउ टू डू दैट?
They can connect my clinic and that number can be provided.
Okay.
And through that clinic, one can take video consultation, Zoom consultation for 40 minutes to understand what one has to do.
Okay.
And after a consultation, I also have monthly and 6 monthly program, and in which I guide on daily basis for that energy medicine practice.
Okay.
So the patient and at least 2 family member of the patient need to practice, because disease like cancer needs involvement of the whole family. Anyway, if they are taking any chemotherapy, the family member has to go. So karma of family member is also there.
True.
So if they will practice energy medicine together, meditation and the allied practice, which I will guide regarding heart coherence and regarding breath work, EFT, emotional freedom tapping, so it will be more effective.
Okay.
So when a family practices these things, cancer remission is possible.
Wow. ಸೊ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಈ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರೋ ನಂಬರ್ಗೆ ನೀವು ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಗೆ. ಸೊ ಮೊದಲೇದಾಗಿ 40 minutes ಒಂದು ಝೂಮ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ ಇವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ 6 months ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಇದೆ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ 1 year ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್.
1 month and 6 month program.
1 month and 6 month ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ ಪ್ರತಿದಿನ ಗೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಬರೀ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಜೊತೆ ಆ ಮನೆಯವರು ಕೂಡ 2-3 ಯಾರು ಕ್ಲೋಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಅವರು ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಬೇಗ ಗುಣಮುಖ ಆಗೋ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ನೋಡಿ, ಏನಾದರೂ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದ ತೊಂದರೆಯನ್ನು ನೀವು ಅನುಭವಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದರೆ, ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅನ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದರೆ, ಖಂಡಿತ ಒಂದು ಅಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಮೆಂಟನ್ನು ಸರ್ ಹತ್ರ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ನೀವು ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೀನಿ. तो सर, इसके बारे में कुछ बुक्स है जो डॉक्टर्स या कुछ साइंस इंटरेस्टेड पीपल कैन रीड ऑन अंडरस्टैंड मोर अबाउट एनर्जी हीलिंग ऑन कैंसर?
There are dozens of books, because I have mentioned more than 1,500 cancer remission case has been research analyzed by Kelly Turner.
Okay.
She researched for 15 years on natural cancer remission. Means those 100 cases she interviewed one by one. That what you did to heal your cancer without chemotherapy, without modern treatment. So detailed practice is there in the book Radical Remission. Radical Remission book came in 2014, and after 6 years Kelly A. Turner, who is continuously doing the research, brought the second book, Radical Hope, in 2020.
Radical Hope.
Yeah. So these two books are very good. And beside this, there is one Harvard doctor, Jeffrey Rediger. He has written a book Cured. In that Cured book, he has investigated a spontaneous regression of disease, spontaneous remission of disease. With those diseases in which medical science says that healing is not possible, but healing has happened. So he has studied many cases like this and what patient is doing so that healing is happening. And there is one book, Mind to Matter.
Mind to Matter.
Yeah, Dawson Church. Patriji has popularized this book. In Mind to Matter, there are many cases of cancer healing through meditation.
Okay.
So it is a wonderful book. If any doctor read Radical Remission and Cured and Mind to Matter,
Mind to Matter,
he will be convinced like me that cancer remission is possible by energy work, by holistic spiritual work.
So good, sir. Thank you so much sharing such a wonderful information. ಎಸ್ ಸೊ ನೋಡಿದ್ರಲ್ವಾ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ನಿಮಗೂ ಡೌಟ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಕಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಹಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಚಾನಲನ್ನು ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸೋ ಮಚ್ ಫಾರ್ ವಾಚಿಂಗ್.